Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle Constant. I am the Digital Services Librarian at Trails Regional Library, and we're doing another online training this morning. Today, we're going to be talking about Zinio. For those of you who don't know, Zinio is a digital magazine service. We subscribe to a certain number of magazines per year, and our patrons are able to go online, log into our system using credentials that they establish, and download magazines either that they can then read on their computer or on a mobile device. And that is something that they're able to use for free because we have purchased those subscriptions. We do have a limited selection of subscriptions. We do have to choose which magazines we want to select, so it's not a matter of there just being this huge collection. So we manage that based on circulation, what checks out, what doesn't, things like that, like we would a print collection. So I will say there is a little bit of transition going on right now. I'm in the process of going through our collection and revising some of it, not only in what is visible, but also how it's organized. So just keep that in mind as I'm going through this training. What it looks like in this training may not be, depending on when you're looking at this, it may not look exactly the same in terms of what's in the collection when you look at it, but it should function very much the same. So without much further ado, I'm going to share a screen with you. And there we go. Okay, so this is the homepage of our Zinio collection, and it might actually be worthwhile for me to back up, go to our homepage, and show you how to get to it. So currently, we do have something in our slideshow for Zinio, this digital magazine slide. You can click on that. That will get you there. Also, as with a lot of our other online resources, if you go to our online resources menu and come down to Zinio Digital Magazines and click there, it will take you to our page that explains the service to patrons, provides maybe some helpful links for locating the apps that are usable with Zinio, and provides some basic instruction on how to use these things with different devices. So let's go ahead and get over to Zinio. And now we're back to the collection as you just saw it. So again, this is just showing folks the subscriptions that we currently have paid for. There are a lot of other magazines that are available, but these are the ones that we are able to purchase on an annual basis currently. This will, again, this will change, but we, and so if you have requests from patrons, please do pass those on. That is something that we would be interested to know if people are wanting to use the service, but maybe there's just nothing in the collection that they're interested in. That's something that I would need to know. So when a patron first comes to Zinio, there's a few things to note. One is the search box over here. Our collection is not large enough that I would necessarily recommend showing them how to search. In fact, even whenever you click into the search box, you can see it just pops up all of the names of the magazines in alphabetical order. So it's maybe of limited use in terms of search functionality. It also doesn't search within the titles, so it's not as though you could get on there and do something like you could in EBSCO, where you would search for a topic and see which magazine would cover that. It's purely to search the collection for titles. Something else you can do is break it into genres. Again, there's only, you can see the page numbers here. There are 4 pages of magazines, and there are 12 on each page. So there's not a ton for them to go through. I honestly would just recommend that they browse and just go through page by page to see if there's anything that interests them. It's not going to take them a whole lot of time. And honestly, I think it's probably easier and simpler, and that way they're not missing anything by switching to a genre and not seeing something that they might be interested in. So again, that's what I would recommend doing, is just going through page by page. So they are alphabetical. One thing that I did mention earlier in this training is that some of the organization is going to change. One thing that I've noticed, this is only the second year that we've done this, so we've only gone through the transition period from one subscription year to the next one time. We've only made that transition once, and so I'm still kind of learning. I didn't realize some of the back issues of magazines that we have dropped. For instance, PC Magazine did not circulate well for us. Some of those back issues are staying in the collection. So that's something, and you can see this is from October 1st, 2015, and it says your library does not offer a current subscription to this magazine. So this is something that we're going to give our patrons some warning, and then we're going to pull these because they weren't circulating to begin with. That's why we dropped them. And so it just seems like something that we wouldn't necessarily want to keep in our collection if it's going to just remain being the same 4 or 5 or 12 issues of a magazine. It just doesn't seem to make sense to leave that in there. But the other thing that's going to be changing as far as the organization and the collection is going to be that if you look, everything is in alphabetical order: PC, popular mechanics, popular science, prevention, Rolling Stone, shape, taste of home, etc. And then you get down to Us Weekly and Women's Health, and it starts over with Country Living. So this is where our new magazines start, the ones that we started subscribing to this year. So that's why it starts over with C after Women's Health, and then you have Family Fun. So basically what's happened is these are all new magazines that we have subscribed to just this year, and they're in their own little group that that is alphabetical, but it's not intermingled, it's not interfiled with the existing collection. So you don't have the ability to necessarily go through alphabetically and say, okay, well, since I'm looking for Country Living, and since it goes from Cosmo to Discover, then they obviously don't have Country Living. Well, actually we do, but it's all the way over here. So I've contacted them, and we are going to fix that. But again, that's something that might look a little bit different if you're looking at this sometime in the future rather than viewing it live. So they're here. They are ready to look at a magazine. They can go ahead and log in if they want, or they can go ahead and go through an account creation process. If they do that, they will be asked for their barcode number. And when you do that, you can then, it will just verify that you do have a valid number. It's not currently hitting our database, so it's not going to check and make sure that somebody has an account in good standing. It's just going to check if their pattern matches our barcode pattern. So for instance, in this case, my pattern worked just fine, so it's allowing me to create a new account. Now, in this case, I already have an account set up with that email address, so it's already populated there. And if I went through this, it would say, you've already got an account, you don't need to create a new one. But this is all they're asked for: first name, last name, email, and then they create a password. Zinio used to require that you create 2 different accounts, one with the library or with this, this interface here. And then when you went over to Zinio, you had to create an account with them as well. Now you don't have to do that. You just create one account. So if you wanted to log in with an existing account, then again, it just asks you for your email and password. You don't have to put in your full name or anything like that because it's already there. You've already created your account, and you're able to do that. I'm actually going to not do that currently, just so that you can see if a patron comes to this fresh and doesn't see this and doesn't create an account to begin with, what they're presented with. So let's say, for instance, they want to read this issue of ESPN magazine. So they can click or tap on the cover, and there it is. It gives you a short synopsis of what the magazine is about. It gives you some links to get the apps on different devices, and then there's a checkout link. So when they click the checkout link, then it pops up and asks them to log in. So again, if they have an account, then they can just sign in. If they don't, then they can create an account. And again, it's going to ask them for a barcode. So I'll just log in. And now I've checked it out. Now I have a couple of options here. I can either go ahead and start reading, or I can keep browsing and looking at other magazines. Keep browsing basically just closes this window. So it would do the same thing to click keep browsing as it would to click this X or anything like that. I'll show you what start reading does here in just a moment, but something else to keep in mind or to be aware of is that you can also check this box down here that says email me when the next issue is available. For some people, this will be really handy. For others, maybe just an annoyance, especially if they've got lots and lots of magazines that they're following. What it does, it doesn't automatically check it out to you. So you still have to go through this process of going to the website, checking out, and then, loading it in your app. But it will at least let you know that there's one available. So it's not exactly a subscription. It's just more of a notification type situation. So and of course, this will happen with different, with varying frequency depending upon when things come out. If it's Newsweek, it'll come out every week. Or in this case, this is a bi-weekly magazine, as it says there. So they'll get an email every 2 weeks. Again, for some people, that's going to be really handy because they don't want to have to come back here and see when it's available. But for others, that might, for people who are just occasional magazine readers, that might not be quite as handy. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is the start reading. If you do click start reading, you can actually go ahead and just read in the browser. So you can see it just opened the magazine in the browser, and now it's available for me to just go page to page and go through this magazine as I would normally, just reading in my browser. Now, presumably there are some people out there who want to do it that way, who want to read their magazines in their internet browser. Most people are going to want to use the mobile app. So that's going to be the primary way that they're going to interact with things. But just so that you know that this is an option, and in fact, this option does work on a tablet as well. If they check out and they tap start reading, they can go ahead and read this in their browser. They actually don't even need the app. So it's entirely possible that if someone stumbles upon this service without instruction from us, that they could potentially go through and never really need the app, other than to go back and see the magazines that they've checked out before and that sort of thing. As far as features, I'll show you some of the things that you can get into. For instance, over here on the left-hand side, you can see there's a table of contents. This varies pretty widely from magazine to magazine. You can see this one's actually pretty sparse. I was just looking at Discover earlier, and it was more detailed. And this also varies from the way it looks in the browser to the way it looks on the app. So I'll show you that whenever we get over to the app side of things too. But you can go into the table of contents and just, if you want to skip right to the columns, okay, here's the column that I want to go to, or maybe it's the only column in this magazine, then you can go directly to that. Again, you can also still page back through things, or if you want to go back to in this issue and see what things are available on that page. Again, in this magazine, they call it in this issue and Photo Boom, but not every magazine is going to have something called that. So again, the way this looks and how well it works really is going to vary from magazine to magazine. Another feature here is skip to page. That's this little grid here. And this is just a way for you to go through and you can just see thumbnails of each issue, or excuse me, each page spread, 22 and 23, 24 and 25, things like that. And then you can just click on one and go directly to it rather than having to go through a page at a time. You can also change your view so that it is full screen. You can even zoom in and drag around so that you can see things better. Then you can zoom right back out, switch your full screen back to normal view, and there you go. Some magazines allow you to also print. And again, this is going to vary widely because different publishers have different levels of comfort with allowing people to print things out of their magazines. So the option is there, but how it works and how well it works is going to vary from magazine to magazine. So, okay, I'm going to close this magazine and go back to the collection. You can see that we do have back issues. Originally with Zinio, this was going to be an issue that, or it was going to be a concern of ours that we weren't able to get back issues. Now they have worked it out with publishers to be able to actually maintain a collection of back issues that go back as far as our subscriptions go. So, for instance, this goes back to December 22nd, 2014, but you can see there's another page here. So we can click next, and it actually goes all the way back to September 15th, 2014. So more than a year ago. And that, again, is when we started. That's as far as your back issues go. And it mirrors a physical collection in that sense. We wouldn't have a physical collection of back issues beyond when we started collecting a magazine in print. So it's very similar to that. That's shouldn't be really shocking that that's what publishers are comfortable with. That's kind of what we've been dealing with ebooks. They want to mirror that physical collection as closely as possible. So that's the gist of checking out materials and reading them in the browser. Now, the other side of this is the app. So what happens in the app? Well, in the app, and I'm going to have to switch to sharing a different screen with you. Hello. And let's see. There it is. Okay. So this is what the app looks like. Now, when you first get the app, and I'll sign out of this in just a little bit and show you what the sign-in process looks like, or what it looks like when you're not signed in. But because honestly, our connection is kind of slow this morning, and so I was afraid if I signed out that signing back in was just going to take too long, and that I was going to have issues showing you any of these magazines if I had to wait for one to download. So I'm going to leave it this way, and then I'll sign out at the end and show you kind of what the login process looks like. So this is my magazine collection that I have on this account. So first thing that you'll notice is that it shows you anything that I have checked out on this account throughout since I started the account, basically. Again, our connection is not great, so some of these covers are not loading, but just imagine if they were. So as far as the interface goes, right now, again, at the top left, you see Zinio for libraries. Directly beneath that, you see the word date and a blue bar beneath it. That just means that currently these are organized by date. And just to keep in mind, this is by the date of the magazine. For instance, this one that you can't see the cover of right now is Discover, and I checked it out this morning. This one I checked out 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it's from December 11th, and this is from January and February. And so it takes the publication date. So apparently the January, February issue of Discover was out before the December 11th issue of Newsweek, which with the publication patterns of magazines, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, even though it is January, February. Because Newsweek is weekly, I wouldn't be surprised if that came out after this issue of Discover did. So that's why it's presented here by date. It's by publication date, not by the date that you checked it out. So if someone just checks out a back issue, it won't be here. They're going to have to go through their collection to the date that issue was originally published. The other option that you have over here is title, and that will just reorganize things by title again. So you've got Backcountry, Do It Yourself, or Discover, Do It Yourself, ESPN, etc. And each one of these is organized by title. Now, and again, you can just see that these refreshed as I was talking, and that issue of ESPN magazine that I just checked out has now loaded into my collection. This would probably be a good time to show you some of these tools up here. First is the bookmark. That I'm going to show you in just a moment. That's kind of something that you need to see inside a magazine. Edit allows you to edit the issues that are available in your collection. So you can see a little X has popped up next to each one of these magazines. So for instance, if I wanted to get rid of this issue of Newsweek, then I could click X and it's gone. And then whenever I'm done, I just click done. Excuse me. And now it is gone. Now, the other option is if I want to restore, I can click over here and that will show the magazines that I have checked out and taken out of my collection, and I can put those back in. So so these are the magazines that are currently in my collection, and I can go in and each one of these, you can see underneath the cover is a cloud if I haven't downloaded it yet, or it just shows the date if I have. So for instance, Discover, I've downloaded that one and it exists already in this version of my app. I've already downloaded it and it's there. The other magazines I have not yet downloaded, so they just show a cloud. So I can click on Discover and it opens up that magazine, and I can go through, again, swiping page by page to see these different articles. The other thing that I can do is I can click on an article title in the table of contents and go directly to it. Some magazines have the ability to view things like video, or in some cases even audio within the magazine. Again, that's going to vary pretty widely from magazine to magazine. So it's not necessarily going to be in every magazine. And it's really difficult to show an example because it is so different from magazine to magazine. Again, some of the tools that you can find, if you tap the top center, your toolbar shows up. You have down at the bottom, you have the thumbnails that I showed you in the browser version that allow you to go directly to a page. You have a text option that allows you to look at something just in a text form. And again, once you've gotten the text version of this, you can email it to yourself. You can change the text size and things like that, just to sort of customize it to look the way you want it to look. The other option that you have is to set a bookmark. So if I set a bookmark here, later when I come back to this magazine, let's say that I'm back at the cover and I want to come back to the issue, or the bookmark that I was reading earlier in the day, I can click this menu here with the three squares and look at my bookmarks. You can see one that I made earlier, and then there's this one here. Again, it also dates your bookmarks so that you can see, okay, this is one that I made earlier today versus I don't know, maybe you bookmarked one a couple of weeks ago, and that's the one that you want to go back to instead. So you can click either one of these, and it works just the same as one of the thumbnails down here. There is a table of contents. Again, it looks very different in this than it does in ESPN or in the browser version of this. So each one of these is just text only, and you can go directly to any one of these things by just clicking on it. The other option is an overview, which is those same thumbnails, but in a grid rather than in a sort of a timeline down at the bottom. Let's see, I'm going to go back again. I've shown you text, I've shown you bookmarks. Let's see, table of contents, overview, bookmarks. I've shown you getting rid of magazines. Oh, one new thing that they did add, again, Zinio has changed from the time that we started with Zinio. Their app used to just be called Zinio. Now the one that I would recommend to patrons is that they actually download one called Zinio for Libraries, and it has added some new features that are pretty handy. For instance, once they have set up their account and set up their app, this button here that says check out magazines will open up a browser directly to our collection. And so then you can browse and go directly to our collection, check out a magazine, and then if you want, go back to your app and read it. The thing that I would mention is what I mentioned to you earlier, which is that, for instance, if I went in to this copy of Newsweek and checked it out, it's going to go ahead and check it out. And again, I'm still in the browser. Even though I'm on my tablet, I'm in a browser. It still gives me the option to start reading. And you'll see it just opened a new tab. It didn't go back to my app. So depending on how a patron wants to view it, if they want to view it in a browser, then this is fine. If not, then they can click back until they get back to the app, at which point it should refresh. Or if it hasn't refreshed yet, they can either swipe down, which it's not showing now, of course. You can swipe down to get it to refresh. If not, there is an option within your settings to refresh your library. And now that issue is there. Again, it's not downloaded. So if I want to download it, I would click on it and you'd see this progress bar, and that's actually loading way faster than ESPN or Discover was this morning. So you'll see it kind of popping up as this progress bar fills up and as the percentage goes higher. And as pages are added, then you can go from page to page. But as you can see, it's kind of sporadic in which pages it adds when. So reading it before it's actually fully loaded is generally not that smooth. So it's best just to wait for it to load fully, and then you've got the full access to your magazine. And then it works just like anything else does. So, you know, that is a big benefit over the way it used to work, where it was very much a separate thing to check out and to read. You really had to do two very different things: open up a browser and go to, you know, our site and go through our collection and all of that. Now it's set up in such a way that once they get this set up, they can click that check out magazines button and get back to our collection with much less hassle. So that's the gist of using Zinio. Let me go ahead and I'm going to sign out here so that you can see this is what it looks like before you have set up the app on a tablet. So if you're walking a patron through this is what they're going to see when they first open up Zinio for Libraries. Again, by this point, they should have already gone to our site and created an account, and maybe even checked out a few magazines, so that then when they come here and they log in, and yes, it opens up a browser, then they can sign in, and you can choose libraries. Apparently at some point I must have used Mid-Continent's collection with that address as well. And then you can put in your password. And while I'm putting that password in, I'm going to take that screen down, because I noticed earlier it actually shows those as I'm putting them in. Okay, now I'm going to share it again. And after I click login, then my collection is back up and I'm running again with the collection of magazines that I've already checked out. So again, I think because I was already signed in, these magazines actually are still downloaded. If it was a new account, then these would not be saved on the device. They wouldn't be in memory anywhere, and I wouldn't be able to just open them up. They'd have to be re-downloaded. But because my account was previously set up on this device, then it still remembers what I had and what things were checked out. So that is the gist of how you use Zinio for libraries. The Kindle process is a little bit more complicated. The way you use it is very much the same, but getting the app on your device is a little bit more difficult. And I didn't realize until this morning. I'm going to share a different screen with you. Hello again. Let's see. There it is. Okay. On our Zinio page, it's just trailslibrary.org/Zinio. There is a video that I created of how to set up the Zinio app, how to install it on a Kindle Fire. I'll rewatch this and make sure that it's still good. So, you can rely upon that for now. And if it's not accurate, then I will replace it with another video, or I will get you better instructions. But essentially, probably what I need to do is set up a new video just generally showing you how to install things on the Kindle Fire that are not in Kindle's App Store or in Amazon's App Store. And that may be something that's forthcoming. And if so, then I will be sure to let you all know that it's available, that you can take a look at that. It's not a lot more difficult, but it does include another step or two. And since Kindle Fires are so cheap and so ubiquitous, that may be something that you all will have to deal with or have to help patrons manage. So let's see, looking back at my video, it doesn't look like I have any questions. So I think that's going to do it for Zinio. If you have any questions, or if you feel like I didn't cover any aspect of this service that you've encountered, or that you've had patrons come to you and ask you questions about Zinio, please do let me know, and I will amend this video, or I will make sure that the video or maybe a new video is put up that covers some of those additional topics. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.